All right, it's Mr. P helps with Algebra 2. This is Unit 3, Topic 2, SLT number 10. And we're going to look at transformations of trigonometric functions and looking at their graphs, transformations of the graphs, I should say. Amplitude in this case, so we're looking at midline is where it starts, which is in the middle. So it looks to be right here at 1. The amplitude means how high it is, 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3 above and 1, 2, 3 below. So the amplitude is 3. And the period is how long it takes to complete one full cycle. So this is a B 1, 2, 3, 4. It takes 4 different points, 4 changes in order to complete one cycle. So that's 2 pi amount of time to complete one cycle. All right, pretty quick and short warm-up there. And these are just quick and easy looks at different types of ways that you can change trigonometric functions. By changing them to the amplitude in front, basically changes the height of the graph. So if it's 1, it only has an amplitude of 1, red, and then 2, 3, 4, 5. So it just changes how high it goes or how low it goes. You can also see how transformations can occur for midlines. Midlines. So whether or not it starts at 0, starts at 1, starts at 2, starts at 3. So this is all the different colors of how it would change. Now keep in mind that they also have amplitude changes as well. So this one has the smallest amplitude. So you have 2 changes actually in all of these. So the y-intercepts are changing based upon the midline, and the amplitude is changing the heights of how high the function goes. And here we have, okay, so they all have the same, these are cosines, which means they're starting at different maximums, since the amplitude basically tells you where to start along the axis. So the bigger the amplitude, the higher it's going to start, and the lower it's also going to go. We're not talking about odd or even, so odds and evens. So when you have a sine function, so like these, this is going to be perfect a reflection over the origin, which means that this is an odd function, whereas an even function would be like a cosine function. So cosine functions are perfect reflections over the y-axis. Those are even functions. Okay, so I think I already talked about that one. And so this one has amplitudes changed, as you can clearly see. It's starting at different points. So that's the y-intercepts. And it's also got different midlines. So it looks like it's been changed significantly because of that. So the y-intercepts have changed not only because of the amplitudes, but also because of the midline changes. So it's always amplitude multiplied by, this is your period multiplied by x, and d is your midline. I know we've talked about that in the other videos. So basically this is where it starts in a cosine function. It's either, if it's positive, it starts at the maximum. If it's negative, it starts at the minimum. And everything else is pretty much exactly the same for a cosine function as it is a sine. All right, so we're going to do a couple of examples. I think, 2 more pages of examples, so 8 examples of graphing. So plus 5 means that that's our midline. So I'm going to start by putting a dotted line at the midline. 2 is the amplitude, which means I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to go up 2 and down 2. So I'm going to go up 2, back to the midline, down 2, but I need to know what my period is. Period is 1 because there's nothing in front of the x, which means it takes 2 pi amount of time. So it's going to go up here by 2, down to the midline, down by 2, back to the midline. And that completes one full rotation in 360 degrees, or 2 pi radians. This one's got a midline of 4, and it's going to go up and down 3 from there. So it starts, I know right here because that's a sine of. It's going to take this amount of time, so I'm going to put a dotted line right here to complete one rotation, which I should have done right here as well. Gives me an ending point, and then I can go 3. 1, 2, 3. So there. Back to here, 1, 2, 3, back to the midline, and that completes one full rotation. Okay, so sine of -1 means that the midline is right here. It goes down 3, 1, 2, 3. So it's going to be down 3 right here. Remember, it's sine of x, which means it always starts at the midline. It takes 2 pi amount of time, so this number is still 1 right here. 1, 2, 3. So the difference here between this question and the last one is that it's got a negative amplitude, which just means in this case that it's going to start by going down instead of going up. This question is done exactly the same. Let me just move myself out of the way. So let's see. Plus 3 is the midline. -4 is, so we know it's sine, so it's going to start right here. It's going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, back to the midline, up 1, 2, 3, 4, and back to the midline. to complete one full rotation. And I think we're going to have some cosine questions here. So plus 2 is our midline, which is right there. It's cosine, which means it's not going to start at the middle. It's actually going to start at the amplitude. So it's going to start 2 above it, and then it's going to go down to the minimum, back to the midline, up to the maximum. One rotation. 1 is the midline. 3 is the amplitude, 1, 2, 3 above the midline. It's cosine, so it's going to go down, 1, 2, 3 down here, then to here, then back to here. So a lot of people like to put 3 dotted lines, 1 for the maximum, 1 for the minimum. You can do that as well. I know I'm not being very neat here. If that helps, then that's just another suggestion. So plus 3, 1, 2, 3. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I put a dotted line for the midline, and since the amplitude is 2, so I'm going to put a dotted line 2 below it, and I'm also going to put an amplitude 2 above it to show all my points are going to be on one of those 3. All right, so picking up where I left off there, I had to stop for a second. -2 means that it's going to start down here. It's cosine starting at the minimum, then it's going to go back to the midline, maximum, midline, minimum, just like that. Okay, last one. -2 is the midline. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's your maximum. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's your minimum. And it starts at the maximum because it's positive, and it's going to go here to here to here to here. Just keeps going back and forth. Basically, it goes from maximum to midline to minimum, back to midline, back to maximum. And that's where I'm going to stop. All right, thanks again for watching. Have a wonderful day.